This is TWiT.
There's been a lot of talk lately just about what life is going to look like now that Google Play Music is sort of gone. And I actually got to look at kind of a couple of different local music player apps recently, because as I've mentioned, something that I'm really trying to do is go back to that old way of just having MP3s on a storage somewhere and just putting them through an app that plays them back for me. Good old school way of listening to music. And the good news is that there are so many darn apps in the Play Store to do this. It can actually be really overwhelming to try and find one that does it for you. But the other good news is that regardless of which, of the major apps you might download, you'll find that there's a lot of new features that have come through that are very essential, like casting support and Android Auto support. So again, I did this little roundup for Android Police on local music players, and I had a couple of favorites that I just kind of wanted to point out and kind of lead you down the path of trying to find one that suits you in your new music listening life. So one of a handful of my absolute favorite ones include Pulsar Music Player. Now, I like this one for its theming capabilities and also because it's included in the Google Play Pass, which I like to make use of that. Now, $5 a month that I pay for it. And thankfully, Pulsar is part of that. So I get no ads. I get everything unlocked. It's a very lightweight music playing app. It has a lot of features that you might find essential, like an equalizer, a couple of presets, ability to make playlists. There's also Omnia Music Player. This is actually a sister app to Pulsar Music Player. And this includes a lot of the same feature, plus things like a 10-band equalizer. And the good news is both of these apps also have integrated Android Auto, Google Cast support. The real shining star, though, one that I was quite surprised because, as they say, don't judge a book by its cover, but I totally judged this app just by the page that it was in the Play Store. I just saw, the screenshots they included, they were just really brightly colored, and but then I went into the app and I realized that this app is really quite powerful. So Power Amp Music Player. Now, one of the reasons I super like this app is it lets you easily import HTTP streams. So any web streams you listen to, you guys already know digitally imported is something that I've been subscribing to for years. And they do this nice thing where they give you the URL of the stream so you can use any app that you want as long as you're a premium subscriber. And so I was able to do that through Power Up Music Player. The cool thing about that, though, is also that there is Android Auto, Chromecast, and Google Assistant support. So I have all of that support bundled into an app that also lets me stream the music that I pay for. So I know this was a local music app roundup, but the fact is that Power Amp gets its name from the fact that it does all of these things, plays local music, and it plays HTTP web music. So a nice thing to just kind of keep in mind. Also, this app has a volume boost feature, which might be really helpful. There have been a couple times when I've been in my car listening to indie content, let's just say, and the sound levels have been kind of a little too low for my stereo. So I've used this mode and it really works. It also works for speaker. So sorry to everyone who will be around you listening to your music, but maybe don't do that. Maybe stay home, because you should be staying home anyway. There's a couple more apps that are suggested on the list. If you're interested, you can go check it out. And of course, those are just a couple that I used and checked out for a while. There's so many other ones in the Play Store, but these are just ones that I got some sort of hands-on time with. So if anybody needs some suggestions. And of course, there is the issue, well, how do we get our music out? And I feel like I need to defer to Jason for that, because he has been walking Ron and I through in our little group chat about his experience taking his music library from Play Music and sort of figuring out where it goes next.
Well, here's what I realized. I should have downloaded my music library from Google Play Music when it was still part of the Google Play Music Manager. If I remember correctly, that was the app that it was like an associated app that you can install on your phone or on your computer to make it easy to upload and everything. And it also had the ability to download like large amounts of files. If you tried to do it through the Google Play Music site, it would put a limit on you, and you'd have to go to the Music Manager in order to do it. And if memory serves, when you did that, it would preserve a directory structure. It would give you your files in a structured way. Well, right now I'm working on a Hands on Android episode where I wanted to like challenge myself. Like, what does it take to get my music from Google Play Music and put it onto a Plex server and get Plex Amp working? And I thought it was going to be easy. And I mean, it is easy to get all that stuff through. Now it's through Google Takeout, right? Which is Google's tool for getting all of your data for the most part. But what I ended up with was a single folder with almost 10,000 MP3 files in it.
That's painful.
And it's just like there's nothing organized at all. The only organizing factor would be the ID3 tags that are embedded inside of the MP3s. File names are all what they were originally, and those are all over the map, right? And so I'm trying to like import that into Plex, and it's just not working. Everything ends up going into a folder of unknown artist and then unknown album and then 10,000 songs in that thing. And it takes a million years to load because there's 10,000 songs in it. So I thought it was going to be easy, but it's a real pain.
I feel like I feel, and we were talking about it before the show, and I imagine we'll continue to talk about it after the show, but like, if the ID3 tags are there for the MP3s, it shouldn't matter whether or not they're all in one folder or not. And
right.
is there an issue with Plex and Plex server in terms of how it's reading and parsing that information? You would ask me if I had these kind of problems, and I didn't pull down from Google Play Music because I was always pushing up to Google Play Music. Right. So I've had a single hard drive, a single desktop with all my music for going back to 2005 or whatever, and that's what uploaded to Google Play Music. And anytime I got something new, I would go to that computer, I would save those MP3s in that structure, and the Google Play Music Manager would send it up. So I didn't download anything. Like my concern about what I lost from Google Play Music was all the music that I added in Google Play Music, which I never owned because I never bought. Trying to figure out how to get a list of those songs in the library so I can go buy those MP3s and add them to my library. But when I definitely had this music collection before I had Plex, and when I added the Plex server, I clicked on music and they were all just there. I told it what folder was in and it worked. And but they were already organized by folder. So I can't tell, but I gotta imagine they can use the ID3 tags to get that information into Plex and sort it. I feel like it's a Plex problem, not a Google Play Music problem.
This also, by the way, just FYI, this sounds like a very 2005 problem.
It really does.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I suddenly
like
find myself in this
like,
weird position.
Seriously. Yeah. This is why I'd uploaded my music into Google Play Music in the, back in the day. And I know that was back in the day and I shouldn't be bringing it to now, but it just adds into all the sort of frustration and how messy this whole thing is. I know they really tried to make it a smooth transition, but it just, I'm sorry that you're going to have to do this.
I also went through the Google Takeout route that Jason mentioned, and the playlist output that you get from Google Takeout is just literally a CSV file, which is pretty useless for most music media players. I found a Python script that's hosted on GitHub that converts that into like an actual M3U file. So that actually saved my butt because I had so many playlists to convert. And then where did I go after Google Play Music? Well, I found an app. I revisited an app that I actually used to use a long time ago called Cloud Player by TWiT, and it basically lets you turn your existing file hosting service like Dropbox, Google Drive into your cloud music service. So like you upload your files there to your personal Dropbox or personal Google Drive, and you can stream it to any device that supports the app. So that's sort of like, it's not as elegant a solution as Google Play Music was, which worked on so many different platforms, and you don't have to worry about taking up so much storage of your own personal storage, but it works. It's one solution people might look into. Plex is another good one. I also migrated over to YouTube Music, And I'm actually kind of happy with how many features they've been adding recently. It used to be pretty bare bones, and Google's promises of adding features that after they killed off old service, like all the missing inbox features in Gmail, they don't live up to their word, but they are adding a lot of the things that they promised they would add in YouTube Music.
Yeah, and I find myself, also as I go through this and the pain points of it, and realizing, okay, well now I'm using. Now I would be using Plex Amp to access this, or Cloud Player to access it. Let's say it's already there in YouTube Music, so why don't I just use that? And what it comes down to is, like, I agree with you, Mishaal. They've been making some changes, and they've been improving it. It's not quite there, but what is still out of whack for me when I go to my own library in YouTube Music is finding an album is so painful. It like loads, and I know we've talked about it before, so I'm sorry I'm beating a dead horse. But when you go in to find an album or an artist or whatever, and you scroll through, it's like it loads up like 10 or 15 artists, and then you go down to the bottom of the list, and then it loads and loads and loads, and then it gives you 10 or 15 more. And if they would just fix the kind of the browsing component of me accessing my library there and make it as seamless as it was on Google Play Music, as it probably would be if it was on Cloud Player and these other places, then I wouldn't feel like it was as necessary for me to do something else. Like, I might not even use YouTube Music for its music service, but maybe I'd use it as my cloud locker, because the music's already there. It's already sorted. It's just a pain in the butt to get to anything right now, and that destroys it for me. I hope that they fix that, and if they do, then maybe I would change my mind, but they haven't yet, and so I'm looking.